Today's Louis Vuitton Pacific Series coverage is brought to you by Toyota.
Alinghi, with one win, only need one more to clinch a spot against Emirates Team New Zealand in the finale. For Russel Coutts and BMW Oracle Racing, this could be their last chance.
Race 2 in the best-of-3 Challenger final. Alinghi are 1-0 up. This is win or exit for Oracle. In race 1, Russel Coutts controlled that start so well. It should have been a match-winning advantage for Oracle, but it wasn't.
Oracle coming in with the starboard advantage. Alinghi required to keep clear. You can see Alinghi came in from the left-hand side, just tacked up in front of BMW Oracle. And in this amount of wind, Coutts does not want to get into the dial-up situation. He's letting Alinghi just spin round the bow and look for BMW Oracle to set up on the right-hand corner to leeward of Alinghi, heading back towards the committee boat. Boats in this amount of air, very manoeuvrable. Good speed build by Alinghi as they track back towards the right-hand side of the start box, the safer zone of the start box. The small power boats there, they are the umpires on the water umpiring with 3:18 to go.
So what sort of conditions are we looking at here? About 15 now we're talking, and it looks as though it's up around there.
Yeah, 15, 16 knots. Forecast isn't great for today, but looks like pretty good conditions. Now, the imaginary yellow line is the starboard ley line to the committee boat. As the boats just get into a circle, Alinghi waits. Alinghi on the left, Oracle on the right. Coutts looking for the hook. Are they going to push forward? Russel Coutts. There's Bowman, Alan Smith calling the overlap. Outstretched arm is no overlap. If the arm goes vertical, the boats are overlapped. As Alinghi realises the danger and just spins out of the way, and Coutts brings it round on the leeward quarter. He is being quite aggressive. Oracle looking, hunting for the overlap. And the Y flag flies. Oracle looking for a penalty in the pre-start. The question's been asked. The umpires will hit. Up goes the flag. That's the Y flag. That's the penalty flag from BMW Oracle. Still no decision as Alinghi just turns round and heads back towards the start line. Coutts has a jibe to do. This is going to leave them a little bit late for the pre-start. As BMW Oracle come round behind, they're trailing Alinghi. Under a minute to run for the start as Alinghi goes bow up, waiting for Oracle to come at them. The windward boat could be locked out at the windward end from the committee boat. Alinghi in control, a full boat length advantage with 56 to go. Alinghi controlling, bow forward. Oracle, after trying to get that penalty, are locked out at the windward end. Coutts has got to take a luff. Ed Baird has done a fabulous job here of locking Coutts out at the windward end. Alinghi in complete control. Russel Coutts in trouble. He's going to be very slow off the line. Down comes the bow of Alinghi. Russel Coutts forced to follow in. The gun goes. Big advantage to Alinghi.
Oracle very slow off the line. A brilliant start by Baird. Coutts seemed to have control for much of the start, but when it mattered, Alinghi were off the line in better position and with better speed. And Coutts will be tacking very soon out of here. There he goes now. Oracle tacking away, but look at that advantage that Alinghi have. Is that a decisive advantage in race 2?
Driver's license.
There's going to be some checks here, all right? Leg 1 of this second match of the Challenger final. It's upwind and it may well be uphill here. for USA. That is BMW Oracle. As Coutts goes into the tack, and immediately on his face is Alinghi. But what a margin already, and they're only just off the line.
2 lengths. Left, Alinghi. Right, Oracle. Alinghi completely dominated the start. Russel Coutts hung out to dry above the committee boat end. Just wonder whether the communication on the boat was working correctly. Vital error. Alinghi just keeping the game tight. You could hear Brad Butterworth just saying there's going to be plenty of tacks up this windward beat.
Well, we should go back to that start, Peter. That the last 60 seconds, the vital part before the gun, and Oracle at that stage were looking pretty good.
Well, what happens is you go for the hit, you go for the penalty, and it puts you in a compromised position. And that's exactly what happened. Alinghi took the opportunity when they survived the penalty call, and from there on in, they were bow forward. They had all the cards because Oracle were locked out at the windward end.
About 2.5 and 2.
Well, Butterworth said at the start there'd be a lot of tacks on this leg, but really, Peter, there've been none.
Been a bit of a right-hand shift. That's meant that Alinghi really are controlling. Oracle are very thin on the hip of Alinghi. That means they are behind and just slightly to the right.
It's not like he's stepping away from us here.
You can hear Hamish Pepper talking about, are they minimising their loss? But when you're in that tight, on the right-hand side of a boat, trailing the leading boat, you are losing. That's why they've tacked away.
Nearly 100 metres the advantage as BMW Oracle tack to port. Alinghi maintaining their line, heading towards the left-hand side of the course.
Dean Phipps just having a look over towards Oracle. Russel Coutts options for the top mark. Really, he just is trying to minimise the loss. Oracle coming back onto starboard tack. Russel Coutts using the leeward wheel. Alinghi on the ley line to the top mark, on that port ley line.
Downwind is long port.
Around 16 knots as they approach the top mark for the first time. Alinghi completely dominant, won the start, and now they have stretched.
An extra tack now for BMW Oracle as they look forward and see Alinghi at the mark and rounding. And this has been a painful exercise for BMW Oracle.
Alinghi comes around the mark, fairway set, bow comes down, up goes the Jenica as this team set the benchmark for crew work. They very rarely put a foot wrong, and that's another very, very well executed hoist as Oracle come in a long way behind.
28 seconds. That's a huge margin at the first mark. Well, it's not a huge margin except when you consider the two crews in action here. When you've got two high-quality crews on similar boats, to have a margin of 28 seconds at the first means that one crew has done everything right.
Pretty solid. Once you're out to more than 100 metres, it becomes difficult for the trailing boat. 165 metres. And we've only done 1 1/4 legs. What can Oracle do to try and get back into this one?
Big ask for the Brains Trust on BMW Oracle Racing. See Hamish Pepper to the right there. Coutts at the wheel, Hamish Wilcox. The crew wondering what they're going through their routine all right, but I suppose they're just wondering what can they do from here. Looking down the barrel of a 2-zip record and therefore exiting and seeing this crew on Alinghi going through to the Louis Vuitton Series final.
Boy, Alinghi are extending. That was 200 metres as they come down the first downwind.
We are 15 seconds with this wind.
Good lesson here of how to jibe a Jenica. Jibe the Jenica, leave the mainsail set on the old side, get the Jenica around and set before you bring the mainsail through. Beautiful jibe by Alinghi. the asymmetrical sail. Fold the leech right round the leading edge of the sail as Brad Butterworth looks back. Be happy, very happy with that start as Alinghi come back down to Mark 2.
Certainly it was the start that set Alinghi up for this decisive lead they've got.
Alinghi comfortable, the sails are stowed away, down comes the pole. Just a little bit slow getting the pole off and stowed, very light. They look heavy, they're very light indeed, those carbon poles.
Now trailing by a long way, BMW Oracle. And oh my word, things look as though they'll get worse for them.
Young and
Oracle's crew work around that bottom mark, less than perfect, and more gains for Alinghi. Now it's 190 metres, the advantage.
Oracle tack away, Alinghi covering. Alinghi comfortable as they work their way up the second windward beat. The tide's changed, wind against tide, so the waves have got up a little bit. Not going to affect these boats much as they go up the channel, up the Rangitoto channel to Mark 3. Big extension there to Alinghi up to 220 metres. Oracle really just have to try and keep close, looking for something to give them a chance at Alinghi, but Alinghi looks so smooth.
Keeping close is pretty much impossible at the moment for Oracle as they go into the tack now, onto port tack. 235 metres. Alinghi sailing away with this.
Right-hand shift and right-hand pressure, which means not only are you protecting the right tactically, but also that's where the wind's coming from. And also a bit of a follow the leader course up this windward beat because of the right-hand shifts. It means they're going to spend a lot of time on starboard tack. Alinghi, Brad Butterworth certainly controlling the action. Ed Baird very happy with his start. We're on Oracle. Hamish Wilcox tucked under the gunnel as the lead continues to grow.
28 seconds it was at the first mark, 38 at the second, and nothing that Oracle is doing can cut back the deficit. The lead is becoming quite substantial for the men on Alinghi.
Alinghi approaching Mark 3, just past the ley line as Alinghi tacks for the top mark. Oracle still coming up the windward beat. Alinghi, bear away set, around Mark 3, on the run to the finish. Looking for a clean manoeuvre as the bow comes down, up goes the Jenica. Jenica's willed just to contain the sail for the hoist so it doesn't blow out. Then as the crew need, just pull on the spinnaker sheet and the sail will break out from the wooling.
28 at the first mark, 38 at the second, 58 at the final mark rounding. This is a comprehensive victory, at the moment anyway, for Alinghi.
On board with Oracle. Missed opportunity at the start. Very costly as Alinghi now charges down towards the finish. Beautiful conditions. 16, 17 knots. The pole, spinnaker pole, braced a long way aft. Boat speed around 10 or 11 knots.
And there's just nothing that Oracle can do in this situation. Alinghi can take it just comfortably, make sure they make no errors, take no risks, no need to. There's no tension on board now as they sail towards that finish line, which they can see in the distance. And in their mirror, if they had one, they'd see in the distance their opposition, BMW Oracle Racing, a massive lead.
Huge lead as Oracle just goes into their final jibe. They one jibing into the finish line, but Alinghi charge on, setting up for a jibe. Brad Butterworth just pulling on the backstay. Sail comes through, sail turns inside out and then onto the new jibe. In the inner harbour of Auckland, Alinghi continues on.
Well, the blue line takes Alinghi over the finish line first. They have led this race from the start, and Ed Baird steers the boat to victory. The jubilation is obvious. They have won this in most decisive fashion. The margin 67 seconds at the end. And this has been an extraordinary performance in race 2. It was a race in which the start was the deciding factor.
Yes, it was. Russel Coutts locked out at the windward end. Ed Baird took full advantage and control in the last minute. And that was the race. The start was crucial.
Yes, slow off the line, Oracle. Alinghi had the lead, which they kept. A comprehensive victory for Alinghi. 2-0. They win the Challenger final. They will race Emirates Team New Zealand for the Louis Vuitton Pacific Series title.
Congratulations, Ed Baird. It lends a new meaning to the expression short and sweet.
It worked out nicely today. The guys just did a fantastic job. I mean, the timing in the pre-start, the trim up, acceleration off the line, you know, you couldn't ask for more.
You're looking like you're on really good form. What would it mean to you to win this regatta?
Well, obviously, we always enjoy winning events, and, you know, that's something that the team is assembled for, and, yeah, it's the most fun that you can have. But we've enjoyed being here, and we have had an absolutely fantastic experience, no matter how it turns out. And we realize that this is, you know, a big deal for the home team. So, you know, we're happy to have the chance to go at them.
So, for BMW Oracle Racing, the end of the road, an anticlimactic end, but a valiant return to the fray for Russel Coutts.
We just made some critical errors at critical times. You know, I mean, obviously today we couldn't have sailed much worse, you know, but a lot of that's, you know, without making excuses, a lot of that's just that we haven't had time together as a team, and we're missing some, you know, vital bits of information.
Communication, the key issue here?
Oh, it is. You know, it's getting a really good understanding of each other, you know, in the afterguard, knowing what to say, what, you know, when to sort of reinforce a bit of critical information, and that, you know, that obviously takes time to establish.
Not how you wanted it to end, but sum it up for us in terms of what you've come here, what you've achieved, and where you go.
I think for us, you know, we didn't come here with any grand expectations, you know, and I think, you know, we just a lack of consistency was probably the big factor from our perspective. You know, we had some very good moments and some not so good moments, and you know, it'd be for us going forward, it's a matter of eliminating the big errors and you know, making sure that we get more consistency.
Early in the piece, you said that you had a way to go to get back into it. How close are you to getting back to where you were 6 years ago?
Closer than I thought I would be, actually, in all seriousness. But you know, I'd need probably, you know, realistically 3 or 4 months, you know, solid practice to get up to a reasonable, you know, get more consistency.
Recapping the final result, Alinghi beat BMW Oracle Racing 2-0 in their best of 3 series, meaning a rematch of the 32nd America's Cup pairing, Switzerland's Alinghi versus Emirates Team New Zealand, in a best of 7 showdown over the next 2 days. At stake, the Louis Vuitton Pacific Series trophy. Well, as we've been saying, race 2 puts a sort of new slant on the old expression, short and sweet. Very short, very sweet for Alinghi, very bitter at the start.
Well, it was the race was absolutely dominated by the start. Alinghi came in from the you know, the disadvantaged side. I thought that was interesting, and yet by the end they were in control. Coutts, to me, looked like he wasn't getting the information he required. They stalled, and then off the line, from then on in, really, they could never put themselves in a strong position in relation to Alinghi.
So next up for this incredibly powerful looking Alinghi team, it is of course Emirates Team New Zealand, and it has to be said, Alinghi look ominous.
Oh, I think they go in here as the favourites. The key will be, for the Kiwis, the first race. They need to win it. It's quite simple. Win the start, win the race, because they're going into this with being beaten 3 times. So I think the confidence thing will be a big deal.